Welcome back to Coast Files, your ocean mysteries and true crime podcast. I'm Chantel.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Megan. First try.
Oh my God.
We got it.
Nailed it.
Last time it took us quite a few attempts.
Let's not get into it. How long
Well,
it
it's
took.
funny because that episode's actually going to come out after this episode. So we're getting better, but backwards.
Yeah.
So we're coming from the future.
Yeah.
So we're telling the past. I don't know.
Yeah.
Time travel, guys, goes way over my head.
Yeah, and we recently, we just put out our Smalls Lighthouse episode, and I actually wasn't sure when we started to get the hang of microphone placements and things like that. So maybe like anything moving forward will be better audio.
Much better.
I mean, I don't think that's a guarantee. I'll just say it right now.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Also,
But
we all live in cities and construction and cars and trucks and
We do what
and
we
the
can.
episode I did with the haunted island, we had my fire alarm going off in like 15-minute intervals the whole time.
yeah.
So
you know, it's fun.
Which
It's fun
we
times.
actually
Yeah,
won't
it's good.
even hear till later.
again, who knows? Like time's a social construct.
Yes.
We are here. We're there. We're in the
We're
future and
here
the past.
for today for Lindsay. What is she?
Yes,
saying?
and what is the topic today? I feel like it's going to be a good one. Like sad, but good.
It is sad. It's actually nightmare inducing as well, I think.
Oh, good.
So
Okay, good.
you're in for a treat. Maybe not treat.
A treat if you
Very
like
tragic.
to feel sad.
Yeah. If you like to feel
Oh.
scared and sad, then this is going to be a good episode for you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
My two favorite feelings.
This is the story. Well, this is all about the disappearance of Tom and Eileen Lonergan. Have you ever heard of them?
Disappearance. Well,
I haven't.
so I looked ahead and I see this one photo and I recognize the photo, but now I don't think I know this case at all because this is not what I thought it was
I
going
want
to
to
be.
be able to tell you all about it. I didn't know about this either. I have to shout out Eric again because he was like, "What about this thing?" I'm like, "Oh, that's
Oh my
a
God.
really good idea." So Eric is on it with.
We're gonna have to start paying him or
suggestions.
something.
No, not yet.
Don't tell him that yet.
Lindsay can
but
just
we'll buy
bake him
shoes
baked goods.
eventually. That's all he would like.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Perfect.
fair.
Yes.
He does not want baked goods.
but
He hates baked goods.
Oh,
What's wrong with him?
He only consumes sugar in the form of
Vodka.
yeah, mixed
And
with
Sprite.
yeah, cocktails or in his coffee.
Okay. Well, I
Sorry,
mean,
and that's
good
just
for
to be
him.
clear. That's not vodka in the coffee. Lindsay means
No.
sugar in the coffee.
Well,
Okay, just
mixing it with like Sprite, so which is just
Yeah.
like liquid sugar. So, so to start off, why don't you open up my photos to the first one of this
Okay.
lovely couple? This is Tom and Eileen.
Is this in the 80s? Because this screams like
I think
80s,
so.
90s.
It's
I would
either
say
80s or
90s.
90s.
90s, yeah, late 80s, early
Yes.
90s for sure.
Number one, the glasses are a choice. But she is beautiful.
She
I mean, he's
is.
actually very handsome
Yeah.
too. But can you just like look at her earrings really quick?
Are those anchors?
Oh my little anchors.
She's one of us.
I didn't even notice
She's
that,
one
Megan.
of
That
us.
is amazing. Yeah, she
is
would.
Right away.
Yes.
Right away I noticed because you can't see if we were even wearing earrings, but I have so many like little nautical themed things just in my house and accessories.
Yeah.
So right away I'm like, those are cute. She is just so beautiful.
She really
really is.
is.
She looks a lot like she could be part of your family, Chantel. She looks like Yvonne Chantel energy a little bit.
I can see that again.
see
A lot of
it,
people look
yeah.
like my mom, it seems. Weird.
Tom kind of looks.
What does that mean?
Like maybe if he had a beard, do you think he'd look a little bit like Damien?
Oh.
Well, with the
With a beard, maybe. And then more hair.
okay, so he's
got the
handsome,
smile.
but my husband to me is like the hottest man I've ever seen. So
And this is not the hottest man you've ever seen.
I'm not having the same attraction.
That's fair. Well,
Honestly,
That's
he's
fair.
also,
if he
yeah.
if he lost the glasses, it could be a whole different thing.
Okay.
But the glasses, I
Can't get
see
past.
past the
Taking
tinted.
them off
Just
could
for-
also make it worse, though. You never
Yeah.
know.
I wonder if Damien could pull off the glasses,
God.
though. We'll have to buy him some
Oh.
and test it out. Okay.
And then we just get him a white windowless van and just he's good to go.
And a trench coat.
Of course, a trench coat.
Obviously. So let's talk about Tom and Eileen. They're American. They were born in Louisiana. They fell in love after attending Louisiana State University. And
Go Gators.
yes.
Am I close? What is it?
No, Louisiana. I think that is Florida that you're talking about, the Gators. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louisiana. Go Catfish.
Perfect. We'll go with it.
We'll have to look that up and add that in later. Okay. They were very much in love. Their family said they had a lot in common. They were both great students. They loved the outdoors. They came from Catholic families, so they had that religious connection as well. Yeah. They both joined the Air Force after graduation and moved to Jefferson, Texas. And Tom was a chemical engineer, and Eileen worked as a teacher. And
these are some smart folks.
Yeah, very smart. And on June 24th, 1988, they decided to elope in a very quiet little ceremony. They don't want to they don't want to blow their budget on a huge wedding, I guess. Which,
you know what? If I could do it again, I probably would elope and then just see if like my parents could host a party at their house. I don't regret my wedding at all, but
your wedding was a lot of money. Sweet, yeah. But it was like so small and yeah.
You know what? That was a small. So for those that don't know, my wedding was about 30 people, including the groom and the bride, and you really couldn't go smaller unless you like had like a home party.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it, but it was still just it's like 10 grand. Imagine just not having spent that. Anyway.
Yeah, but
it's an investment.
I liked your wedding, so
and
I
had
had fun.
A giant party that you threw for your friends to be able to come together.
100%, and it was a good excuse to have people come from out of town that normally wouldn't, because having a backyard, this and that, it's like that's fun, but a wedding, there's like this level of importance put on it.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you still need to have a wedding for us to attend.
Well, see, I basically did elope. I just went to the city hall and our only guests were Eric's dad and our baby at the time, my
That's
son.
so very, very sweet. We just want a chance to celebrate you and also wear pretty dresses.
Yeah, we'll have to have like at this point, a 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's scary because like you're creeping up on that already.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Where does time go?
It's
like
7.
I know. Chantal,
Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
But my wedding was only $70, so
well, that's
big
pretty
difference.
Good.
Yeah. That was just the cost of like the marriage certificate. So anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I got
back
married
to
in a
similar
like
fashion
situation as Tom and Eileen. Yeah. So 7 years later, they volunteered as teachers for the U.S. Peace Corps. They lived in South Pacific Island called Tuvalu. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Hopefully not.
Tuvalu. I've heard of that.
That's it. Okay.
When I was in high school, we did this big debate like competition thing. It was a bunch of us, like, well, I won't say names. Bernard and Bahad were there. And I think also Bashua Board and a few other people. And I forget who was the country. I blocked it out because like we did not prepare. I was not good at that debate thing. But somebody was Tuvalu, and they wanted to change their national anthem to Under the Sea because their island is actually like receding every year. It's really sad, but it was meant to be a joke about climate change and how like it's serious, you guys. Anyway,
wow, okay.
Just a little personal anecdote.
Yeah, I love it that you already knew about it. Well, they don't really have a lot of the same amenities that we have in our cities. So they live without electricity, and they only were able to receive mail about every 6 weeks. So it was very remote where they were.
Wow.
But and this is in the 90s when internet probably wasn't a super big thing for them.
Yeah,
so like not getting mail for a month and a half. Wow.
Yeah. But they love this time. They got to scuba dive a lot. They love reefs and learning about wildlife. So they're very connected that way as well. And they were even able to swim with whales at one point, which was something that they really cherished. I know Chantal's
cool.
like,
I'm like, I would have been their best friend.
I mean, this honestly sounds like Chantal's dream life, maybe minus the internet not existing. But I think that if you're on the beach all day, you're like internet, schminternet.
Chantal would have been the third wheel in their relationship.
I would have been hardcore.
Adopt me.
Yeah. Yes. Well, they have.
I mean,
I would have been
like
like you at
like
that time.
age of our parents. you know.
Very perfect. But I mean, you already look like Eileen,
There
so
we
you could
go.
be like,
Perfect.
Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would have been like, oh, I don't remember this, but sure, it looks like it.
But you look like me, so it must have happened.
Okay, so after their 2 years in the Peace Corps, they decided they were going to return to the U.S., but then plan a move to Australia. Another connection with Chantel there.
Oh.
Chantel also lived in
Is
Australia.
this you?
I think so. This is like my past life.
These are your real
when I
parents.
was still alive. Oh my God.
Sorry, Yvonne. We love you. Anyway, so Tom wanted to study marine biology, so that was kind of the reason for moving to Australia. Anyway, before they started all this, they wanted to go on a trip first, and they wanted to do some more diving. And they ended up booking a dive trip with the Outer Edge Dive Company based in Australia on the northwestern side where the Great Barrier Reef. So if you want to take a look,
Okay.
Well, first
Thank
of all,
you.
I have a little picture of a reef just to give you an idea of what they were into.
love it.
Beautiful.
Isn't it? This
This
picture
looks like-
actually won like photo of the year on Wikipedia like several years ago. So it's
Wow.
I
pretty
can
cool.
see that.
Yeah.
It's very, very colorful.
Yeah.
And I like all the different shades of blue, as you can see, like, you know, in the background. And it's just pretty.
Yeah.
It looks like what Windows 98 would have used for a background. Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Which means
they
it's
would have
good.
loved this
I'm
photo.
not dissing. Oh yeah, this is stunning. Here's Australia.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and then if you want to go to the next photo, I have a map of Australia just to give you an idea of where the Great Barrier Reef is for anyone who is
Okay.
curious and doesn't know. This is where it's located up on the northeastern coast of Australia. So, this was on January 25th, 1998. So, late 90s,
Wow.
taking us back a little bit. The weather conditions were really great this day for a trip out to the reef. There were 26 passengers booked to go with the Outer Edge Diving Company, and they were going to start in the resort town of Port Douglas. So if you want to go to my next map, you'll see that I put a little star at Port
see it.
Douglas. Yeah. So everyone on the boat, 9 were certified divers, including Tom and Eileen. 11 were student divers, and the rest were just kind of on a day trip to explore and try.
Just like check out
Yeah,
surface stuff.
Exactly.
Or
well, they might have
they could
gone
probably
down,
snorkel.
but yeah, they had some
Yeah.
people that were able to assist new divers as well coming on the boat.
But they wouldn't have been allowed to like go off on their own.
No, and yeah, that
Okay.
would be really dangerous. So there were 5 crew members there, including Jack Nairn. He was one of the co-owners of the company, and he was a skipper. So that's the person who's kind of in charge of the vessel. When they departed, passengers would store their shoes and things like that at the dock for when they came back, and they boarded that day at 8:30 a.m. During this day, they visited 3 dive sites, including St. Crispin Reef. That was their last stop just after 2 p.m. So you'll see on the map I have that reef starred.
I also see one called Lizard, which I'm really curious about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all these reefs are probably they're so beautiful, I'm sure. I want to check out the Lizard Reef as well.
I
Little
would
island maybe.
probably dive. I would dive here because I mean, if I can see some lizards, that'd be pretty cool. I would do that. Just sharks, I'm like,
Yeah.
or Chantel's case where it was like, oh, dive here and you'll probably die. I don't know. Like, no, thank you.
Exactly. So obviously lots of beautiful marine life, and where they were actually dropping their anchor and tying to a boat mooring, it was a very quiet area, but the waters there can obviously change very rapidly too because it is the open ocean. Water on this day was about 29 degrees Celsius, and I forgot to get the Fahrenheit for American.
warm.
Sorry, it is 84 degrees Fahrenheit ish.
Whatever that
sounds
means.
warm.
Yeah.
Well, do you ever find it's weird that how when you're doing the measurement for a pool, it's in Fahrenheit? And then I think like 84 to 86 is like good pool weather, is it not? Pool weather?
That would be
pool
pretty
temperature.
warm pool.
Like 29
I
is
don't-
warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know it
my
is for the air, but for
personal
water, I never.
favorite pool temperature is like 82. feel like
Okay,
it's
wow.
perfect.
This is like bath water.
I like warm, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah, maybe 80's better if I'm doing like
Shocking.
laps and
That's
stuff.
why I loved living here. Although sometimes it was like rough because you would go and be like, oh, it's so hot. I'm going to go cool off in the ocean. And you get in the ocean and you're just like hot and sticky afterwards because the ocean was also
Yeah.
so warm that you're just like that. That
Where
didn't do what I thought it
exactly-
was going to do.
Where did you
So
stay
I
exactly?
was further south. I was further south of Cairns there. So in Noosa Heads.
Oh, okay.
So it's still in Queensland
means-
because Queensland is huge, but
Yeah.
like further south than the reef.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll have
But you're on the side.
Yeah, I'm on this side. Yeah, on the
Okay.
coast.
Yeah, that's where
Well, I feel
that's like
like
same side that Sydney's
coast
on,
is-
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then so we're
See,
closer to Brisbane.
just know
We weren't that
nothing.
far from Brisbane. We're just north of
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. So many wore just their swimsuits for this dive because the water was so warm, but the Lonergans wore their full gear and they turned down having an instructor go with them because they were so experienced. So they just had kind of went as a buddy team instead. They had a tank of about 60 minutes worth of air supply. And the divers were also advised to not go below 12 meters. 20 meters was the total depth of the reef at that area. So around 3:20, they were all packed up and doing a head count of everyone who went into the water. Now, at some point during this head count, something got a little messed up because essentially Tom and Eileen were thought to have been accounted for. So the
Oh.
boat packs up around 3:20 and arrives back at the marina at 5 p.m. without Tom and Eileen.
So the person doing the head counts kind of got turned around and probably counted 2 people twice.
Yes. So one theory is that maybe 2 people went back in the water after the count started and then came back on the boat, and then 2 extra people were counted accidentally.
Oh shit.
So
There has to be a better system, man. Like have
Yeah.
names, have a checklist,
Have a
and read off
number. Like
names.
you are
Yeah.
number 4 for the entirety of the trip. Like.
Well, I mean, if you
Yes.
guys have ever, been at like at a kids party or like worked with kids and you have to do a head count, like no one stays still. I know these are adults, but if it's a combination of being in the water, on the boat, back and forth, you can't count heads. You need to have names and like really.
Well,
no,
yeah,
it's
like when we
just-
were in kids on school trip, it was like line up against a wall and like we're gonna take everybody's name and yeah.
Yes.
Well, and a little bit different too, because likely your teacher would recognize you. But like in this case, they probably had done that 1,000 times and had no problems, and then
Yeah.
whatever happened this day.
101.
Well, you're all getting to
Yeah.
points, and I am going to get into
Oh,
exactly
sad.
some of the things that could have gone on to lead to this really, really big error. So one staff member, Kathy Traverso, she was assigned as the dive master, so someone who was supposed to keep track of the divers. On one of the first 2 dives that they did, she noted that the couple came back about 10 or 15 minutes late. So maybe they were kind of staying down there a little longer than they should have. They did have record of them going into the water on the 3rd dive, but they did not have that record of them returning. And it was also, to be fair, the skipper, so in this case, Jack, the co-owner, it's also his responsibility to do a final head count as well. So these kind of checks were being neglected here. Kathy also said there was another dive master on the ship as well named Harold, and she kind of thought he was responsible for the final head count. So there was some
Yeah,
conflicting.
everyone thinks that someone
Yeah,
else is
someone
doing
else
it.
is doing
I mean,
it, like-
that's classic.
Yeah, but-
I'm so type A that I would annoy everyone and be like, okay, but did you actually? And I would just do it myself.
Yes.
You would hate me for it, but you would be accounted
but
for.
no one
not
would
be
die.
in the ocean. Yeah. That's very responsible, and unfortunately we can't say the same about what happened this date.
Oh, I hate this so much.
So yeah, that's what Harold kind of thought. Well, maybe he recounted a couple people twice. They're just not sure. They weren't really paying attention. So the crew noticed there was a dive bag left on the ship after they got back to the dock, but they kind of didn't really think much of it because it's not completely unusual for people to forget things on the boat. Sometimes that happens. So
Guilty. Like
yeah,
how many sunglasses I've lost.
Yeah.
Just like
exactly. So they're, it's not a big deal. Someone's going to come back shortly and probably claim it. The bus company, so there was a bus that took the tourists to this dock to go on into the reef. They were responsible as well for counting people to make sure they took them back to the hotels afterwards. So the bus company noted that they were short 2 people from when they dropped off earlier, and there's an agreement between the bus companies and the boating companies that, if the people didn't return on time, the boating company would have to provide those people transportation back to the hotels. So the bus driver calls and was like, all right, we're missing 2 people. And the boating company's like, no, you're good. Like, you're good to go. No one else is here. So they kind of just let it go and didn't follow up and
what the
totally
heck? Because, I mean, this is why you have all these double checks in place.
Yeah.
And then the boat company so the boat company can say whatever they want because to their knowledge, they checked everyone off. Mm-hmm. But if I were like the bus driver or part of the bus company, I would say, I don't feel comfortable. Like at least,
Yeah. And it's not really on the,
keep it going.
But at that point, the bus would just say, well, it's on the boating company now to make sure these other 2 people who aren't back in time get back to the hotel. That's the rule we have in place.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I guess they probably wouldn't right away assume, well, 2 people are stranded in the ocean. Like you wouldn't
they just got
necessarily
the go ahead
there
to leave.
right away.
So they could have been like, all right, maybe 2 people stayed behind a bit, but now the boating company is responsible for transporting them. So the next day there was another dive leaving, and one crew member ends up finding 6 loose diving weights on the reef floor. So yeah. These are worn by divers to help keep them submerged. Mm-hmm. So the crew member...
I thought you were going to say to help keep them slim.
Yes, it's hard to kind of get down there sometimes. You need those weights to like lower you into the water. So a crew member thought it was a little bit odd and just kind of returned the items, but the crew just overall thought this is, oh great, we found some extra dive weights, like score, we extra equipment.
Could belong to anyone.
No. Didn't even think it could belong to them, but so that was discovered, and again, no alarms, no bells are being sounded at this point. 2 days later, those bags are still there and they haven't been claimed. So a crew member decides to look inside and sees personal items like wallets and clothing and no dive equipment. So this was starting to sound the alarm a little bit in their head, like what's going on here? This
and this is 2 days later?
2 days later, yeah.
I would like to think that they were charming, nice enough people that someone would have noticed that they weren't on the boat. Like, I find that crazy that these 2 sweethearts who are these really like brilliant, smart people who seem just to love the ocean and just, full of life type. Like they weren't, described as
now
being
if you're in
quiet.
a group of 26
like no one
people,
noticed.
You might, I might forget who's who. Like if I just met these people and everyone's wearing dive gear, it might be hard to
I guess so.
Listen, it always depends how charismatic you are. Like when I think about when Megan and I went to Cuba and we go on this boat trip and the captain's dancing with us, you're not going to forget us.
Yeah. See, that's a safety tactic.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Basically.
I mean, I never want to be described as, she lit up a room, because then that just puts a timer on my life, really. But you would just think that, 30 people even, that's not a huge group. That's like a standard classroom size. Yeah. So I would like to think that someone would have noticed that 2 people who maybe they saw on the bus, mm-hmm. or who maybe said, "Oh, I've dived. I've been to the spot before. Check it out." Like they would have had some kind of conversation. So it just makes me really
another
heartbroken.
thing too is once they got back to the boat after the final dive, they were having some drinks and kind of relaxing and stuff. So it is possible they kind of got wrapped up in that. But I agree, so. It is kind of crazy that no one seemed to notice. Maybe they really kept to themselves. It's not really clear. But either way, there's at least 3 people on board that seem to be somewhat responsible for counting heads. And
it's definitely not the other people's fault.
And then even so, when they got back, okay, there's a bag here. Why not check it right away to give back these items?
Check for a name.
Yeah, it doesn't have a wallet. Doesn't have, I guess not a.
Well, it did have a what? Did have a wallet
before they even head back to the hotel,
because
because that's going to be such a pain to get it back to them later. Why not just take a quick peek then? They also noticed the shoes at the dock were never picked up as well. So
And they're just like, well, that's weird. Anyway.
alarm bells are starting to they're starting to put two and two together, and the dive company decides to inquire,
highlight reel,
at the hotel and see if the couple had made it back. And the hotel staff said no, they were not there, and they hadn't seen them in 2 days.
Jesus.
So now the panic is really setting in. They are very concerned about the divers left at sea when they left the area. No one really recalls seeing anyone. They didn't see any, you can see like little bubbles in the water when someone's diving. So when they were leaving, they said, we didn't see anything like that around either. We always look for that. And you can usually see like within 200 meters, if you it's the water so clear, I guess, too, and the bubbles stand out, that you could probably see someone on a nice day like today was. So anyway, they didn't,
because you said it only gets to be 20 meters there, right? Like that's quite,
that's the depth, and they're only supposed to go 12 meters max.
Yeah.
And when they take the anchor out as well, they do it very carefully because they don't want to damage the reef. So someone kind of, I think, dives in the water, probably make sure it doesn't get tangled or anything. They don't just yank it out and, potentially destroy the coral. So no one noticed when they were doing all of this, and they're trying to figure out, did we actually leave someone out there? The U.S. consulate was informed about the missing couple because they were American, and they notified the family, and the Australian Search and Rescue Service was called in the next day. So this is now about January 28th, so 36 hours, 3 days later, that they finally started their search. So, someone's been on the water for 3 days, although we know from my other case that you could technically survive in the water if you have the
you're
right
not having a fun
stamina
time.
for
You're not enjoying it.
In the USS Indianapolis case.
Well, and luckily these guys have gear to protect their skin, at least from the sun.
Yes, they did. But again, it's still
It's not good.
It's really warm.
Yeah.
But yeah. So numerous boats and planes were called in, and lots of volunteers came in to assist, and they really expanded their search because at this point they could have really drifted. The currents could have taken them. So they do that current analysis of where could they have been if they were left, and they did not find any trace of them. So the investigation started, and they wanted to figure out what happened, what went so wrong, and they wanted to analyze the records of the Outer Edge Dive Company. And they seemed to notice that these records are not great, and some were being altered a little bit, probably trying to cover their tracks retroactively.
There weren't more missing people.
From that specific day, or other ones as well?
I think that was that specific day. In the question,
that would make sense.
Because their return was reported between 4 and 5 p.m. So it's kind of a big gap to be you should have an exact time when you came back to.
Yeah, more maybe it was 4:30, 4:45. That's okay, but a whole hour.
But it sounds like they were just not that dedicated to keeping accurate records because I think one of you said already, they probably just never had a problem before. And, you kind of let things slide a little bit when you feel confident that, nothing's going to go wrong. It's fine. We've done this before. News of the disappearances started to grow rapidly in the U.S. and the Australian media. And obviously the family was very upset and confused as to how this could have happened to their loved ones. And also very frustrated because they want to be able to help, but so far.
They're so far away.
Exactly. So like I had said, the couple had gone by themselves. So they were experienced. So there was maybe a chance they could survive. But around day 4, they decided to call off the helicopters and things like that because storms began to hit the area, and it just wasn't going to be safe to use those out on the water.
Because it's summertime there. They get a lot of storms in the summertime.
Yes, but volunteers still kept looking and looking on the shores. So they ended up finding, I forget exactly what day they found this. It was probably within a week or so of the disappearance. They found a life vest north of the dive site on Cowie Beach, and you'll see that on that map. I put Tom's gear found. And that is...
So wait, hold on. When you say life vest, is this something that they would have been wearing while they're diving, or like an additional item?
I think it's an additional item. So it's something I think Tom had brought, and it had Tom Lonergan's name on it, Peace Corps Fiji. So it was very...
So maybe it was like a packed item that you pull a lever and
I think it was probably something like that, like an emergency.
Oh my God!
Thing that he'd had.
Oh, I hate this so much. I hate this so much.
Back when he was in Fiji.
Yeah.
A week later, on February 8th, a scuba fin with Eileen's name was found on it, and that was about 80 kilometers north of where they found Tom's gear.
Wow. So the currents are obviously flowing.
Yes. Yeah. But this also gave some hope that it's possible they could have washed ashore and things like that. And it also, they found Eileen's wetsuit and her camera and things like that. And these things have been like intentionally removed, like they were unbuckled and taken off. So they were thinking, maybe Eileen intentionally took this off so she could swim or things like that to kind of like stop her from being so weighed down. So they're trying to be a little hopeful, like what if they possibly made it to shore and they just haven't been found yet.
Oh yeah, because I guess they would have had like swimsuits on underneath their wetsuits. I was like, why would she take that off? But especially if you're like hot or expending more energy to have it on. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, do you think that part of it is that the wetsuit, I assume, is like somewhat insulating, and the water is so warm that she took it off to feel more comfortable?
Maybe
that was exactly the theory as to why she might have probably removed it. She's uncomfortable or she's tired. Maybe,
and it's also a great reason to write your name on everything you own.
Yeah, let's go back to fourth grade and start writing your name on everything.
We're gonna have something else coming too that is a written element. Yes.
Okay.
So they also found when her bodysuit had been torn up a bit, and they determined that this was like from coral, like ripping it like on the coral and things like that. Because there were sharks in the area.
Stuck on it. I didn't even want to mention sharks. I was hoping that sharks are not involved.
It's Australia. There's all kinds of sharks. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So one theory was like, okay, did sharks attack them? But it was determined that the rips in the wetsuit were not from sharks. They were probably just from being scraped on coral and rocks and things like that from being in the water. They determined that the couple, left behind at sea. They're still trying to figure out the mystery. And Eileen's family ends up arriving in Australia around April 1st for a memorial service. So on June 27th, a new theory starts to emerge. There was an article coming out that the couple might have faked their own death. So they could have possibly swam.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
But they don't seem like that type.
Well, so here's
their
all the
photo just looks too wholesome. Megan can't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, just based on the history that Lindsay has said, they do not seem like the type that would throw it all away. Like, they eloped. But
what if they have some shit going on in the background?
So some of the reasons why they thought this could have happened was because there are other boats in the area that could have picked them up. They could have had something planned. They also went on their full diving equipment, so they could have. Some people said like maybe they were planning on being on the water for a while, whereas most people were just in their swimsuits because it was so hot.
But see, if I'm comfortable wearing a mask and a snorkel, if I see anyone in full gear, I'm like, whoa. So I feel like they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So can you guess how much their life insurance policy would have been if they were to have cashed in?
$1 million. That feels like a lot in the 90s.
Yeah. This is 98. I don't think $1 million's a lot in 98.
For a life
insurance? I'm going to say $1.5 million.
It was only $45,000 for both combined. So, and it was never cashed.
Also,
so the theory of this doesn't really make sense.
How are they going to cash on each other if
they
could have got their
missing? Parents to cash it in.
Yeah,
or
left
something.
it
Like
to
a family member, and they give it to them. So
$45,000. Yeah, go off. Like, what are you going to do with that now?
Also, neither of their bank accounts were ever touched. So what money are they using, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like that theory makes no sense to me. So this is not surprising.
To me, but there were about 26 different sightings of the couple, and none of them were determined to be very
I just think people
accurate.
are heartbroken and sad, and they just can't believe that a simple mistake led to the death of 2 people. So they're just so hopeful that somehow they made it to shore, and they would rather that they lied and made an exit strategy because then they're at least alive.
Well, there is an alternative reason why that this theory is being pushed so much. So 1.3 million divers go to this Great Barrier Reef every year, and the industry
that's a
employs
lot.
about 50,000 people. Something like this does not look good for the industry. So it could have just been to like give alternate theories to protect the diving industry.
I was
because they
gonna
don't
say,
want people
I
to
feel
be
like
scared.
Yeah, I felt like
They are
somebody else
totally
was,
alive, so please keep coming and keep diving.
It
You're going
wasn't
to be
us.
fine.
It was
Yeah.
them.
Even the Queensland government was saying that they were worried about the impact of the industry because it's a $110 million a year business with more than like 340 million in just travel.
Don't
like
say,
hotels.
don't
and
say
everything
your
that tourism
inside thoughts out
brings.
loud. That's so stupid to say. The government to say that out loud is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, someone said this about them. They might not have said it directly.
Well,
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
that the government went on and was
Yeah.
like, we're really
This is
upset
from an
that it's going to affect
Australian
tourism.
newspaper that I got that information. So
look, they
okay.
can just
So
look at the
it's not
blue
like a
hole.
soundbite.
Everybody keeps going. They're okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And other people in the area did try to give credit to this potential theory, saying that it's possible they could have reached the shore, or they could have been picked up, and the sharks in the area aren't aggressive and things like that. So,
I know the sharks personally. They're really nice.
We had a chat, okay? They've gone vegetarian.
And they, yeah, that's right.
But it would have been several kilometers, and daylight would have only had about 5 hours left at that point. So, and they would have had to also swim through heavy currents, and it would have been really quite difficult if they were able to swim. It doesn't sound like it would have been very possible, even for a strong swimmer, because the currents are just going to take you where they're going to take you, right?
Yeah.
And they would have been probably carried more and more out to open water is probably the more likely.
Okay, but if their gear made it to land,
It's possible, but they're
I
probably
would just say very
yeah.
likely that they just drowned, likely,
and something.
then
took
a shark
care
was
of
like,
the rest.
Yeah. Now it's possible some people said because of the storm that hit that they could have got some fresh water from the rain, but catching rain with your mouth is a little tricky.
I don't know if that's enough to like.
I got 10
sustain
drops
you, but-
today.
Oh my
Some people
gosh,
did
it's
say
so
that
sad.
there's tiger sharks in the area. We know those can be pretty aggressive sharks.
Aggressive.
So yeah,
I think they're also, is it that or the great whites that are like exploratory? So like they'll kind of bite and they don't want to eat humans, so they'll bite.
Is it the bump,
Yeah.
the bump and bite?
I guess
Yeah,
the
so
tiger
they'll
sharks
bite
kind of
you.
lie in wait a little bit and then they attack. So
Yeah, but
they could be
like-
like lurking around and being like, I think you're food. So
Yeah.
gonna
Predominantly
bite you
sharks
now, and then-
don't
yeah.
like the taste of human. They just don't. So they bite, and then that's why people aren't ever like eaten by sharks. They're bitten by sharks, but their bites are so terrible that they're like, "Oops, cut open your femoral artery." So like,
I
peace
just-
out. Like,
ate half your body by
My bad.
but I didn't like it, so I spit it back out. Do you want it back? Did you want this arm back? Like,
Like, what's wrong with us? Like, we can be delicious. Okay.
apparently not to sharks. So.
Try not to take it personally.
But either way,
but-
like, yeah, even if they come out and they're like doing an exploratory bite, like you're likely not going to survive that alone in the middle
Yeah.
of the ocean.
No. Some of the couple's diary entries were brought to light as well. So they tried to highlight that the couple was going through some difficult times, especially Tom, that potentially he could have been suicidal. And the news, of course, starting to like run with these stories. And
This feels
So
very victim blamey.
yeah. And really with
well,
these...
anything and anything to take the blame off of tourism.
Yeah, I think they were just really trying to, unfortunately, like, and the family was very upset about these things too, because you're picking and choosing what quotes to use, and they're totally neglecting other parts of the diaries where they're so positive and like, you're sharing your deep thoughts. Like
Everybody has bad days.
Yeah, like at one point, Eileen said about Tom, like, I think sometimes he has a death wish, and I could get wrapped up in that. But at the same time, she says a lot of other things that are so positive, and she could just be like, maybe Tom's like really in his thoughts right now, or maybe he's just really, they're moving on to a new thing in life. Like, there could be so many other explanations and things like that. And just maybe he's just getting all philosophical on her. Who knows? But
I never really understood too. I know it's a whole like psychology thing, but the whole like family annihilator or like murder suicide. And I just think that if it was going to be something likely, it would be a little more planned out.
Yeah.
To go to Australia, and then he's like, okay, now I'm going to drown her and then kill myself. It just seems like logically, I just don't.
And they would have had to
me.
also count on the fact that they would know the boating company would be neglectful and would count.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Things like that. Like, there's just so much. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably an easier way to do that if you were gonna say
I can think of many ways. So join us after the show. I'll give you lots of tips on how to commit the perfect crime.
Well, and it didn't really take long to also, kind of debunk this, because on June 26, 98, some fishermen found a diver's slate. So if you go to the next photo, I'm going to show you what that is.
I know, like slate, like with chalk, right?
Yeah. So this is a special underwater slate that divers can use to communicate underwater, because you can't talk. So it's not like Little Mermaid
unless
down
you're in
there.
The Little Mermaid, yeah.
Or like Aquaman, they make the air bubble.
Mm-hmm. So stupid. Listen, I love Aquaman, but some parts of that movie, I'm like, okay, I have to just suspend disbelief for a minute, because this movie is really testing me.
How are they gonna really? I guess they had to find an easy way to be able to talk underwater. I don't know. They had to do it that way.
I know.
So
just there's so much CGI. I was like, oh, can I make it? Can I make it through this movie?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all Marvel movies, but yeah, something felt specific to Aquaman. I know,
because you're under the water, and that's where I draw the line. Apparently,
I just want to watch it for Jason Momoa. That's it. I'll just. Yeah.
And I love that he's I don't think that they're supposed to be in Newfoundland, but that whole element when he's on land, he's and then also in Superman, the one with Henry Cavill, my other boyfriend, when they're on the seaside, I'm I don't know, it's just hitting a spot I didn't know I had.
That East Coaster and you getting all hot and bothered.
I'm we don't have men like this back home, I tell you, because I've looked.
Because we would not have left.
Yeah.
No. God, the Tinder there would be on fire.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got to the
very
end
sad
of
slate.
Halifax Tinder at one point. I was like, oh, that's it.
Well, that's it. I've reached.
That's when she moved in with me. She was like, okay,
I'm gonna try Toronto, where it's worse.
Yeah,
there's more, but
there's
it's
more.
worse.
But the goods aren't always better. So,
thank God we all found one, huh? Just one.
That's all we wanted. So what the diver's slate says is Monday, January 26, 98, 8 a.m. to anyone who can help us. We have been banded on what looks like it could be Agincourt. I'm not sure how to say it. Reef, which is very near Agincourt.
Wow, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, so it's near the Crispin Reef, St. Crispin Reef that we mentioned, by MV Outer Edge, January 25th, 98 at 3 p.m. Please help to rescue us before we die. Help. So that's what the diver's slate said.
So that was their message in a bottle.
Yeah. So that's really debunking the theory that they intentionally wanted to be out there.
I didn't know it was going to be this sad, Lindsay.
Yeah. This is
I thought
pure.
I don't know what I thought. I thought it was just going to be kind of like that movie Open Water.
I actually even put I found a picture of it, but I was like, I don't know if I should even put it on there because it's just really, really upsetting. And I didn't know if I was legally allowed to use the photo.
We can use this example
I just
that you have here.
Fun, a lighter diver slate, just so people know what it is. Handwriting expert.
Sorry, not to make us sad. Can you read his message one more time, just so I can hear it again?
Yes. Monday, January 26, 1998, 8 a.m. To anyone who can help us. We have been abandoned on Agincourt Reef by MV Outer Edge, 25th January, 98, 3 p.m. Please help to rescue us before we die. Help.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And handwriting experts indicate that it had been in the water for several months at that point. So it will
I was going to say, I'm
with,
like you know who it is.
yeah,
You don't have to have
it
a
wasn't
handwrite.
like a hoax or anything. It had been in the water
Yeah.
and it was written by Tom. It was his handwriting. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I hate that.
And this just kind of said to everyone that, you know, the couple does want to be rescued. They didn't want to be out there, obviously.
Yeah.
So the investigation concluded that the couple were left at sea due to inadequate safety measures, and that the Outer Edge staff
We're super at fault.
well, they had to kind of take them, you know, go to court for that next, but they wanted to find out exactly who was culpable, and Outer Edge at that point wanted to remain silent.
Oh, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. It was also shown the company had a history of not really doing proper safety measures at dive sites. There was
It just hadn't happened to this extent before.
yeah,
probably.
they didn't have like this happen to them specifically, this company, I guess. So a senior inspector with the Department of Employment Training and Industrial Relations spoke out again about Outer Edge and showed the company had a history of not doing proper head counts, and but you know, other divers loved this company and said they had great experiences. So I think they were
Well, if you
Yeah.
survived,
Sure,
it
you
was
made
the
it
best
home.
vacation you ever
they
had.
loved- the company itself had good reputation, but not so much for
By the
safety,
living
and
people
none of
that could leave reviews.
None of the divers could really remember if ever they had a head count happen.
I can really like a restaurant, but somebody else could have got food poisoning there and really not like it. So I don't think that's saying much.
The bus operator that I mentioned earlier, who had called to see is everyone back. Originally, she said she didn't know who she spoke to get the go ahead, but later she admitted that it was Jack, the co-owner of the Outer Edge Dive Company, and the skipper on board that had said, like, yeah, go ahead, you're fine. So she just later said she wanted to protect him because she was worried about he would get in trouble over this.
They're probably all friendly. It sounds like they work together a lot because there's that
the
connection
companies,
back and forth. Yeah, I'm like, and you don't want to throw someone under the bus if it's truly just a mistake. Well,
Yeah.
she's a bus driver. I get it.
Yeah, another crew member said that, you know, he didn't see anyone in the water when they left. They really thought it was okay to leave, and he did notice the shoes when they docked, but they just assumed another crew member might have left them there. Didn't really clue
Stop
in.
assuming. Just literally
Yeah.
ask someone. Oh, that just drives me
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah. And he also admitted that the head count system wasn't great because people are moving around on the boat and things like that. So people can get counted
That's what we
twice and things like that. On the third day, coroners, they brought coroners and different court officials out to the reef to get a real life understanding of what the Lonergans could have gone through.
And the size, the sheer size, like, oh, I didn't see anyone. It's like you're, off the coast of a massive country. It's all ocean. Like, how would you see someone? That's not a good method to
Yeah,
have in place.
exactly. And they, at this point, they basically assumed that the most likely thing that happened was that they just drowned, or they, went a little delirious being left out on the water, and they ended up just eventually drowning. They said a shark attack was probably actually unlikely in this case, but we'll probably never know with 100% certainty.
And it's and it's not like you have much to hold on to, because like you said, even like the swimsuit being all wrecked up by the coral's really sharp. Like, you don't want to touch that. So yeah, they would have just had to been like literally floating on. Hopefully they had things to float on.
Yeah.
Well, he had his vest and then he lost his vest, I guess. The blow-up vest.
Yeah. And they could, maybe at some point they're just like, you know what, we give up, and they just let go of all their gear, or maybe they were going to try to swim for something and like, we need to like stop carrying things if we're going to make it. Could be so many things. So
well, and we talked a little bit about being on the ocean and like the illusions. Like, I wonder if they thought they saw land, then they realized like we don't know which way is which. Are they swimming towards?
Yeah, did they know which
ocean?
way? Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's
think
really
about
hard
that.
because when you're right at water level, you might not see
Yeah.
off in the distance very well. It's really hard to
And maybe they had eye protection, maybe they didn't. So even if they, could see. It's
They
so
probably just
bright,
had their
things are
goggles,
bouncing off.
right? That's
Yeah.
probably all they had.
Oh, I hate all of this so much.
No. That Jack, the co-owner, was made to stand trial. And in November 1999, Jack Nard's trial began. He pled not guilty. But the big question of the trial was, did he basically neglect his duty to keep his passengers safe? So basically, if they had done that, could this have all been avoided? After 90
I would say
minutes
yes.
Yeah, I think I agree too, and it's really because he is one of the owners too. That's even more responsibility for you to make sure. I can understand that between all the staff, it's like, all right, it's who's actually doing the head count, but you're in charge of this ship, so I think it is your responsibility to make sure that count is conducted.
Well,
you can't stop
and then you
people
get
from
back to the
disappearing,
dock.
but you can at least have alerted right away. We could have had the
And
search going,
looked for them right
immediately.
away, had the Coast Guard out
Yeah.
right away, had everything out right away. Like, yeah, for
When
sure,
they-
they declined having a person go with them, but people are going to do that if you give them the option. So you still have to be ultimately responsible for what could potentially be the outcomes.
Now,
I
My
mean,
two
really,
cents.
and they could have said, don't go past this point. They probably have a waiver that says if you disobey this rule, we're not liable.
Those
Whatever.
things are
I know.
so you can get around them
I know.
with a good lawyer.
But imagine they get back to the dock and there's two people's items that haven't been picked up. On the boat, there could have been personal items. At that point, I'd be like, wow, like I'd rather double check and make sure that we didn't make a mistake. Maybe it's from a yesterday's charter, who knows? But at that point, they should have checked. When the bus driver called, they should have checked. And they were just so
Blase.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe they thought there is no way that could ever happen.
Yeah.
And so they just treated it like it hadn't happened.
yeah.
So while he didn't pull a trigger, he didn't kick them off and leave them on purpose. It wasn't intentional, but it was 100% like unintentional manslaughter. Like I'm sure you're going to get to it.
Yeah,
which is-
what did they decide?
So on November 24th, 99, after 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury found him not guilty. And this is because they could not be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the Lonegans were actually dead, which I'm thinking is because in the news,
I'm sorry.
all these different theories are popping up and the bodies were never found. So when there's no body, sometimes it's been harder.
I
right?
know, no body, no
Especially
crime.
in the 90s, right? In the 90s. And yeah, so I guess at least part of the jury was not totally convinced, and they decided to
That's
find
horseshit.
him not guilty. Eileen's parents, though, it looks like they kind of even forgave him at this point. He apologized to them after, and they
like it
hugged
wasn't
and,
like again he did anything intentional. It's just
and
it's the worst kind of accident.
he still, he had a lot of repercussions out of this, even if it wasn't jail time. So his life obviously was changed, and he said he lives with that daily.
I was going to say he probably carries a lot of guilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably enough. Like I don't think that like jail time, like for who, right? He didn't like I don't think jail time would have helped, but I just think it's the point about someone has to be accountable, and then it's in the record.
I think he gets, like he felt terrible that the diaries were used as slander against the couple. He thought that was so wrong, and he hated the theory about them kind of trying to con things and using insurance money and things like that. And his company was fined $27,000, and they had so many legal fees and lost assets that he lost his company over this as well. So he lost his business.
So it sucks,
and
but
it sucks.
it's because of him and his procedures that two people were literally abandoned at sea, not on a boat, just in their diving gear.
Or maybe not even like technically him and his procedures, but like the people that he may have even entrusted to do these things. Like when you're hiring people that you trust. And if you can't trust them, then you shouldn't hire them if they're not going to do the proper checks as well. So it's still ultimately the onus comes back to him.
Exactly. Yeah. So it sounds like he is remorseful, but it is, I can imagine like I would run that through my head every day of like, why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
So
well, again, because like we said, he probably had that exact same charter experience 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it really sounds like he was just not even in denial. It was just like, no, there's no way that happened. That would never happen.
was
And it wasn't
definitely
until it just kept building and building.
unintentional and tragic. And so one thing that came out of this is changing of laws and regulations. So new regulations implemented that many companies were investigated on their procedures. And Eileen's mother had said she just really, out of all of this, she just really hopes that the government would create better laws around the diving industry. And it sounds like they did do that, having changed to mandatory headcounts, making sure that people actually, stay in one place, have an actual, like a better system for logging.
Like human names. Look at the person. Is that your name? And confirm. Like
having better logbooks.
Oh my
you have to
gosh.
keep better records. You have to have people on lookout. You have to have a certain number of people doing all those things. So yeah, they definitely improved their safety guidelines after this incident. And to be honest, that this isn't isolated. This has happened in different times, even since then. And before that, it was a 93, a 16-year-old was left out in the sea and she drowned. In 2000, an 80-year-old woman was left behind as well when a head count came up short. Yeah, I think they said 80.
Sorry, I just got chills.
Jesus.
Yeah.
80 years old?
I'm pretty sure what I heard on a podcast.
Good for her. But
yeah.
Well, she's died,
Yeah.
but
I mean, good for her that she was still doing that stuff, though. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Cool grandma.
There was one in 2005 where 2 British tourists were separated from their group, and they weren't noticed as missing till the end of the day, but luckily they were found 6 hours later, but very dehydrated. So
I would sue everyone that I saw that day if I got left.
Yeah.
Like, you almost don't want to find me because I would be nuclear pissed.
Yeah. So it's still happening even after this. So it's not just probably in Australia, but it's very scary. So you have to make sure you're going with a really reputable company that are sticklers.
Don't leave the resort
for the safety.
Do it that way.
Yeah.
Just don't leave your room.
Yes.
Don't even look at the ocean.
And one Australian newspaper pointed out that the Outer Edge's dive slogan was to the edge and back. And they were like, ironically, they should have probably rethought their slogan in this tragedy.
Just a little bit.
One more thing. Have you ever seen the movie Open Water?
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, this is based
Really?
off
No.
that movie. I actually watched it yesterday because I was very curious. And the movie
when that movie came out, it haunts me still to this day.
It actually, so the quality is not great, but it is, and it's a horror movie. It was rated pretty well though. And once you get past the beginning, I don't know if you remember how bad the quality was.
I can't remember, but it's like,
oh,
they were the perfect couple. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, they were kind of fighting a little bit because she's working too much, and we're supposed to enjoy our trip and things like that.
I have to watch it again. It's been so long.
You should watch it. But yeah, once it gets into it and when they get in the water, oh my, it was really actually well done. I can see why it was rated well. Even though like I said, it wasn't the best quality movie. I'll actually
guys, it got a 5.8 on IMDb, so
that's pretty good.
I actually thought it had even higher than that.
I just looked at it.
Maybe
It's the
you're
one from
thinking of Rotten
2003. It's Rotten Tomatoes is not what you go off of for ratings.
Oh, jeez.
No, because it's just
Christ.
anybody and everybody. Where people that actually go on IMDb, I find are more
oh yeah,
a little bit.
I thought I saw somewhere
committed.
that Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 71%.
Oh.
Okay, but IMDb 5.8, which is above
remember,
a 5. It's
I remember that movie
for
coming
a
out,
thriller.
though,
That's not
and,
bad.
yeah,
that movie is freaky.
But you should watch it. It's not a very long movie, and I won't tell you what happens, obviously, because I want people want to watch it. But it really gave me that sense of fear and desperation and just pure horror that the Lonergans could have gone through. And I'm so sad that they weren't found in the end, and that they had to go through this, and
their bodies are never found.
I guess. Right. I luckily I guess at the bare minimum they had each other to rely on in the moment and hope that they could get through this. And
yeah,
it's just they were so young at the time. I totally neglected to probably say this. Tom was 33 and Eileen was 28.
They're so much younger than I thought they
Yeah,
were.
Tom, 33 or 34. Yeah. So very young.
Oh my
They had their whole lives ahead of them. You know, they just were doing what they loved, which was to go scuba diving and see wildlife, and excited to do more great things in the world. So that is a story of Tom and Eileen Lonergan, and very tragic.
I hate it, Lindsay. Thank
Just
you.
bringing
Hate
us
it.
down. Now I got to get
I'm
through the rest
sorry.
of the day.
Yeah. Well, you can watch open water. You can just keep
There we
this
go.
flow
There we
going,
go.
you know. Make today
Keep
tomorrow
that sad
can be-
train
tomorrow
going.
can be
Love it.
better. So
Did they know where like the note was from, like how they would have gotten to that point? Like, was it currents that accidentally took them to that point, like where the note says that they were and where they were lost at? Or
So I looked it up on the map, and it's very close to the St. Crispin Reef. It's just slightly north. So it's possible that,
Gonna look that up right
they
now.
actually knew the area more. There was also something I read on Reddit as well from someone saying that maybe Tom had called asking about being on the going to that reef specifically. So maybe they did say, like, you know, it's close enough, you can swim there, or maybe he took it upon themselves. So another thing too, and this was I read on Reddit from someone who lives in this part of Australia, and they were just saying that they could almost understand how easy it would have been for them to get lost or swim too far. You get so mesmerized when you're down there. It's so beautiful. You can kind of quickly like go along and realize you're actually gone quite a far distance. So it actually happened to them, and they ended up realizing how far they had traveled from the boat, and it was quite far, and it just makes you realize that it can be very easy to get lost or swim too far away.
well,
from
that's kind of like what I said was reading in the Blue Hole one as well, is that they said a lot of times that things can look closer than they are too because of the light and if the water's really clear. So they could have even done something like that, being like, oh, it's like right there, but actually it's like 50 meters away and it just looks so much closer. So that could have happened too, I guess. But
yeah. I think that is likely what happened. They got a little, and it sounds like they had come back a little late from their previous dive. Maybe they just, you know, and they have that confidence because they're professionals that they can just, you know, bend the rules a little bit and go a little further than other people might. So it was probably a little bit of error on their part of that, you know, going too far, but then more so that, you know, the boat should have made sure that at least if they had the head count, even if they couldn't find them, that they could have put the alert out that day instead of day 3. Day 3 is just...
Or even like the end of the day, like I said, and they got back to the boat and they realized that there was stuff that hadn't been picked up.
Exactly. They could have started the search right away. And like I said, a storm came in, so they missed valuable time there.
I feel like that just tells me that no matter how good you are at something, go with somebody from the company because they're not going to leave without an employee. Like,
yeah, they could have, and they neglected.
It's not their fault, but like, it's just that's what that tells me, is that I don't care how confident I am in something, go with an employee because you know you'll make it back that way.
I forget, Lindsay, do you watch Below Deck? I think
I have. Yeah, I haven't watched in a while, but Eric and I kind of binged it a long time ago.
Oh, we're still binging it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it
obviously
again.
the numbers are way off. So on that show, like let's say there's a total crew of like 12 or something, and maybe there's as many guests, but it's not like there's 30 people with one crew member. There's maybe 8 or something, but they're all the time on the radio saying 2 waters and the guest, everyone's out. 3 people are on wave runners, 1's here, and like nonstop. They're just communicating off and on. But again, it's very small. So I wonder
these people
if
are paying like what, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, tens and tens of thousands.
Yeah.
But I have to hope that now there's systems in place where if people are off, maybe there's like a color coded system, or maybe you're in charge of looking after these 6 people or something.
That's what I was thinking that they should do, is have like a number per person. Like,
like,
or
so
even using
let's
your
say that
name and like Chantal.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
oh wait, what? No, that's
Check.
too easy. That's too easy.
But imagine that the 3 of us are on a boat and we are in charge of looking after the divers. And I'm the pink team, Lindsay's the green team, and Chantal, you're the purple team. and you have, I have my 6 people that are pink and so on. And you're looking after your crew. And so, if your 6 are okay, good. Lindsay, that your 6 are okay.
And
But
Chantel's
just to do a
lost 4
random
people.
fine, that's normal.
Chantel herself is MIA. She's in the portal.
That's right. We don't know where
She found a turtle and she kept going. I don't know.
She's followed it, and this is her life now.
The turtle whispered a riddle to her, and now she's on a quest.
She's grown a
and
mermaid
we don't
tail.
know.
She lives here now. We'll come back.
I
Because
found a sea witch.
she had the special amulet this whole time. She didn't know.
It was in my heart.
But
Yeah.
it was in your heart all along. I just hope that in general these things are a lot safer. And I haven't looked it up. I hope there's no more news stories of people going missing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's some that she mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those were all around the same time frame.
Well, I think the most recent one I saw was like 2008. Yeah, there was another one from 2008.
If we haven't had many since then, that's good.
I hope not.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
technology
don't
is
even
helping.
want to know all this, but
Yeah, I don't even
That's
want
why
to
I'm
know.
like, I think I'd be more of a snorkeler and by the beach person. Megan, you want to do that with me?
Always on the surface.
And then, hey, and if 2 of us are watching Chantel, very unlikely you're going to go missing.
We can
because
watch
we're
from
both
the
watching
boat
you.
with our fancy cocktails, like some margaritas.
And binoculars.
Yeah.
And then when everyone gets up, I'll say, okay, Lindsay and I made drinks for everyone. And then we'll measure, okay, we have 8 drinks. 1, 2. Oh no, there's an extra drink. And then we know someone's missing.
It's a perfect way of counting.
We'll do it one day. Well, everyone,
Wow.
thanks for listening.
Sorry if we bummed you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still go diving. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Just be safe.
Be safe. Go
And
with
make friends with everyone so that people notice when you're not there for head count.
You know what? Be that annoying person that everybody realizes on the boat. It's honestly the best way to be safe.
Yeah.
Where's that annoying asshole? Oh yeah, we're short a person. Yeah, so be annoying, be loud, obnoxious, and you'll live.
Yeah.
It's fair. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. And we love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today. We loved having you. If you liked the episode, share with your friends, family, or anyone who would enjoy it. Also, take a minute to review the Coast Files podcast on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Leaving us a comment or like really helps. You can email us at coastfilespod@gmail.com, follow us on Instagram at coastfilespod, or visit our website at www.coastfiles.com. You can find the sources for today's episode on our website. See you next week with a new episode.